looked up the word sermon, the meaning of the word sermon on Google, just to make sure what a sermon is, because I think I've always missed what a sermon is supposed to be. And it said it's a long, stretched out message of reproof and damnation. That was the one version. The other one said it is something that is a moral discussion we have. And I think a good moral discussion we can have, and this is now a shower sermon, is comparison is the thief of joy. And the Lord's been speaking to me about this for years now. And it's a really dangerous thing, comparison. It's insulting in the first place, because you were created. Who knows what David says about comparison? I was fearfully and wonderfully made, and my soul knows it very well. And what happens when you compare yourself? That what your soul knows very well no longer is applied. And you're going against your own grain. I was knit together in my mother's womb. It's actually a beautiful psalm. John 7 verse 1 to 8. It's in the ESV, and I'll try to read it with one eye. It says, that's the part of John, so that will be in the first part of the book of John, so that will be the book of miracles and signs. So this is before we have Lazarus that is raised from the dead. So it goes, after this, Jesus went about in Galilee. He would not go about in Judea. Why? Because the Jews were seeking to kill him. Now the Jews' feast of the booths was at hand. And if you know Jews, they do feasts very well. So normally they went to the feasts. And normally, if possible, you would go to the feast in Jerusalem, because that's like the super feast. Okay. So his brothers said to him, leave here and go to Judea, because why would they say that? Okay. That your disciples also may see the works you are doing. For no one works in secret and seeks to be known openly. If you do these things, show yourself to the world, for not even his brothers believed in him. So that's a good start, for not even his brothers believed in him. Okay, so this conversation of John 7 is post Jesus doing a lot of miracles. So he's already done amazing stuff, and still they did not believe. Something happens. If you do these things, show yourself to the world, for not even his brothers believed in him. Jesus said to them, my time has not yet come, but your time is always here. The world cannot hate you, but it hates me because I testify about its works are evil. You go up to the feast. I'm not going up to this feast, for my time has not yet fully come. I think, and that's one thing about comparison. We need to measure everything. That's a really interesting human thing. Why do we need to measure everything? In business, if you do your business degree at WITS, you will get this mantra. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. I think we have this innermost desire to be able to control everything. And if I can't measure what my life is succeeding, or what I am doing, or what I am achieving, I'm not able to manage my happiness, my expectations. It's a really interesting thing. And I married a workaholic. I myself am a workaholic. Hi, my name's Andrea, I'm a workaholic. And
Hello, Andrea.
and it's constantly this thing in your head. You feel you have to achieve something. Why? Why? What's driving you? Why are you comparing? To what are you comparing yourself? Will be the best question, not the why, but the what. after this John 7 thing, Jesus healed the woman with blood flow, he healed the blind man, he raised Lazarus from the dead, he did amazing things. I never seem to feel the intention in any of the Gospels where Jesus was rushed to do anything. He was always busy, but he was never rushed to do anything. He says one of the most beautiful sentences I often like to use in Boundaries. Pontius the Pilate, he says to Pontius, Pontius says to him, "Don't you know I have the power to decide?" And Jesus says, "Don't you know I have the power to decide?" He was never rushed. He made things happen. He did in 3.5 years what most people will never do in their lives. He was really amazing, but he was never rushed. And I don't get this feeling that he felt rushed. And I'm constantly wondering about this comparison thing. Why and what? You know, I feel that teddy bears, you know these tiny little teddy bears you give to children, be it a rabbit or a monkey or whatever, I think that was designed by the devil and his research team, because you get them addicted to this one animal and it gets lost. And then they manifest about this lost thing, and the devil was like, "That's a good idea. That's a good idea." We get them addicted to something, then we take it away. And I think comparison was one of the things he did in the research and development team as well. Said, "Hey, let's compare. Let's make them compare themselves." And what was the first moment of comparison we had in the Bible? Genesis 1, Adam and Eve. We have this thing where the devil comes to Eve and he says, "If you eat from that tree, you will be like." So he takes away this beautiful thing that was supposed to be them depending on him, to them being like him. It's sad. Then you see this thing visits their children as well. They go out of Eden at the easternmost gate, and you get this moment where Cain and Abel sacrifices. And Abel brings his best portion because God's not a vegetarian. He brings meat. Just joking, I don't mind. And Cain brings what he brings. But in that moment when he compares himself to Abel, you get this beautiful verse. It says, "Sin is crouching at the door and its desire is for you." God warns Abel and he tells Abel, "Abel, sin is crouching at the door and its desire is for you." Now think about that. So Cain was comparing, and God is warning him that is sin. That thing, because what does comparison breed? I have a beautiful quote of a guy I don't know left or right about. Comparison will make you feel either superior or inferior. Neither honors God. When I read that quote, I thought, that's a good one. Comparison will either make you feel superior or inferior, and neither of that honors God. And I think we live in a measured culture, and we are stuck on social media and having access to everything. And years back, I'm really bad with a telephone because I decided to be really bad with a telephone. Because if someone really needs me, the Holy Spirit will tell me to have my phone next to me. Okay, so that's as easy as that. Because years ago, we were fine. We lived on farms, we had to say, "Nommer asseblief," and that is how it worked. And people lived, and people died, and things just happened, and life was like that. And in Jesus' time, you had this postal service that could reach the other way of the Roman Empire in a few days, and that was the best you can do. And that's life. But now we always need to be so connected. You're so super connected, you're disconnected. Why? Why are you so important? Everyone needs to get you every moment of every day. Why are you so important? Are you clinging to something that, okay, because people get me, they need me? No, people are probably using you. Because that's mostly how it works. You know, when I get this 031 number, or any of those numbers, that if it's a robot, I lose it. If it's a person, I don't lose it. But if it's a robot, I lose it. Because the audacity of a robot speaking to me on the phone that I don't even want to answer. Comparison is a really difficult thing, and it's so ingrained in all of us. It's so super ingrained in all of us. And it's killing us. Because as soon as I think less of myself, I'm thinking less of the one that created me. It's a dangerous place to be. Because humility is not thinking less of myself, it's thinking of myself less. There is a difference. Paul says it beautifully in the book of Philippians. He says, count others more than yourselves. Put their needs first. This is humility. For Christ, who did not think too much of himself, gave himself, came in the guise of a man, became a servant and died. And because of this process of humility, what do we get? We get that beautiful comma in the next part of that poetry, that poem says there. It says it beautifully and says, and God raised him high. How did God raise him high? We call that a cross. Now that's extremely uncomparable. That's not how you would think that psalm, which that is quoted from, would turn out. But if Jesus compared himself to anything, he would be really disgusted. Because he was like perfect. The man of sorrows, that's what the book calls him. The Bible calls him the man of sorrows. That's my favorite name for Jesus. Think about that. Why would they call him the man of sorrows? He dealt with so much. And still he loved. He was never too fast, too quick, too slow. He took time of kids. He even went to heal Peter's mother-in-law, which was amazing in itself. But he had sorrows in his life. He had difficult times. He had the garden. He had friends that left him. Everyone left him in the end. It's not always going to be easy. So things going difficult doesn't give me a reason to compare. But why is it going good with Annelies? But why is it going good with Edith? That's a dangerous place, because now we're comparing my situation with the next. And I think if the man of sorrows would say that, we would be in a difficult position, because in the Garden of Gethsemane, he had all right, because he did nothing wrong, to say, this is not mine. And I think the Holy Spirit's really leaning on us to start thinking about our Christian values and morals and how we represent him. This past election, previous, current, this election thing we are going through, we are being put through. Do you think if we all of a sudden have a Christian government, anything's going to change? Change starts from the bottom up. There's a Russian proverb that says, you have the police you deserve. That's not a nice proverb, but it's a good proverb. The other day I thought, Ben asks me about the police, and I say, yes, the police. We should respect them. But I can't now, in all good conscience, tell him, if you're lost, please go to a policeman. But when I was young, that was the standard, and it was fine. Have you ever heard of this thing called imposter syndrome? It's an interesting psychological thing they have, and most of you probably have felt this in your life. It's when you feel at any moment now they're going to find out you're a fake. You're not all you're cracked up to be. You're not that good. You're not that awesome or amazing. Have you ever felt that? Okay, so it's supposed to be standard. They're going to find you out. You're not this nice person. You're not this holy person. You're not this quiet and gentle and loving and this and this. There's this funny statistic that said between 8 and 87% of people have had an encounter of this, and I thought that's a weird statistic. 8 and 87 is like a giant gap. So let's just say all of the people. It's somewhere in your life you're going to feel this imposter syndrome. It says, the nice smarty pants words is, you feel not worthy or good enough, question your position, and fearing someone might find you out. You have an unhealthy picture of who others really are. We know ourselves from the inside, but others know us from the way we present ourselves. And we only know other people from the way they present themselves. So you have this giant thing of, do you know social media? That's alongside teddy bears, that's the next thing the devil and his R&D team did. You see people take pictures of their food. You're supposed to eat that, not take pictures of it. But now we have to share this experience, and then you have these people with all these Instagram reels and things and all these photo reels, and people think that's their lives. And we feel like, oh, if I could just do it like that, and I could just be like that, and I could eat here, and I could wear that, I'd be happy. The person posting the picture isn't happy as well, so you're in good company. But still we compare. And that makes us on this vacation, we allowed the children to watch TV, and lucky us, they only wanted to watch one episode all the time. So I know the story of Noah by VeggieTales from the beginning to end. I can do all the songs as well. And we have this one guy that Noah sings this thing, God's got plans, and then his son Shem sings, I've got plans. And they do this counter where they both sing it together. And it was a good, deep message of God's got plans and I've got plans, but God's plans are supposed to supersede my plans because he knows about the destruction coming. And Ben turns around and he says to me, hy's ondankbaar. And I thought, wow, somewhere that thing hit ondankbaar. He's not seeing what God really planned for him. What God's really planning, he's only seeing his own plans. And this must happen, and this must happen. And he wanted 2 porch swings because 2 is better than 1. And he wanted a walk-in closet for his wife. I watch the story a lot. Because that was his plan. But God's got plans. And we sometimes even compare ourselves and our plans to God's plans. Do you know there's a fix for imposter syndrome? This thing where you feel you're going to get found out and you're not good enough and other people are always better and their Instagram photos look better and they eat much better than you and they have nicer children that never cry or scream at you for no reason at all. We call that mini meltdowns in our house. It can last anything from 10 minutes to an hour and a half, and it's life. Mini meltdowns happen. That's children. But there's a fix. There's a fix for feeling you're not an imposter. You're feeling you're not going to compare yourself. The fix is easy. Collecting and revisiting success. Collecting and revisiting success. Do you know who does that? I'm not a big Bethel guy. I respect and honor them, but I don't listen to much of their stuff. But once I listened to someone speaking about Bill Johnson, and they said wherever he goes, he has like this folders and files with him, with all the prophetic words that were given to him, and all the victories, and all the thises and that. And wherever he goes, when he's going on a plane, he takes this to read, and he's constantly revisiting success. He's constantly bringing it up, and I thought, that's interesting. That's a good motivational tool. And all of a sudden I remembered, oh, that's extremely biblical. We call that Joshua. And God said to Joshua, as soon as you go over this river, you build up an altar. And when your children walk past this altar, you tell them, this is where God helped us. And everywhere they had this altar, and this was supposed to be a constant reminder. They had these blocks on their head and stuff at the door and things on their arms, and it was not to be religious. God was trying to change their worldview, trying to change their mindsets, not to think like slaves anymore. And he was replacing slave thoughts with Bible thoughts. And they only had like 5 books, but they were 5 good books. And it's extremely important for us to make sure. Now, I've been in Israel, and the first thing I will say about Israel is it didn't feel extremely spiritual to me. The people are very rude. I like them, but they're very. They think a lot about themselves. They think that the cat's whiskers, and I don't know if that's because of years oppression or having it on the wrong side all of the time, or just having life difficult. But they're an impressive nation. They're always, okay, we did this. You know, every year when Yom Kippur comes, you know Yom Kippur? Yeah. You know the history of Yom Kippur? That's where 3 countries invaded Israel during this festival. And they back invaded all these countries and took over the countries and most of the territories, 1 little country against 3 countries. And in 6 days. And I really feel a heartache when you think about them, when you see them there, that their religion has become, what do you call it, culture. And their religion is no longer religion. They don't believe in God anymore, they just believe in their culture. And I think we get lost in that same thing as well, where we start to believe in our culture but not in our religion, who God is. What He thinks about us. I often like those verses, and I speak them over the children. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, and your soul knows it very well. I think that's some of the best motivations you can give a child. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, and your soul knows it very well. There's no one who is supposed to tell you how fearfully and wonderfully you are made. Your soul already knows it. You need no appreciation from anyone else. You need no affirmation from anyone else. Your soul knows it very well. Comparison is the thief of joy. If you are not joyful, that's a good place to start. You have 2 beautiful verses. One of my favorite verses, one of all of them, a good verse is in Hebrews 12 verse 1. You know that one. It's the running one. Mm-hmm. But it's a running one with a lot of pressure around it. Okay, so this is a pressure for you. Who's ever competed in anything and there's a lot of spectators and you're feeling the pressure and, okay, so the heat is on. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, no pressure, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. So that's the pressure part. But now you get a verse 2 that relieves all pressure. So you have a responsibility, but a responsibility is not supposed to bring you pressure. If you do verse 2. It says, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated on the right hand of the throne of God. That's one of the most simple ways how to handle pressure. look only to Jesus. You know my other favorite verse is that one in Revelation where the seals can't be opened and all of the animals and things and winged and stuff, everyone goes crazy, and John goes crazy as well. He has a mini meltdown, and one of the elders come to him and they like, John, relax, behold the Lion of Judah. Nothing is supposed to bring you to a mini meltdown. If things bring you to a mini meltdown, it's because you're not looking at Jesus. And it's not as easy as I'm saying it. It's not as easy as I'm saying it. Your situation, the amount of time you've been in your situation, the things that happened, everything is different. But I'm telling you, that's the only answer I see biblically of eldership bringing someone into, that's berading, I never get that. Counseling, that's the best counsel I see in the Bible of an elder. That's one of the guys that are constantly around the throne of God. Give someone. He says, look at Jesus. So, who are we supposed to compare ourselves to? You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You're not supposed to compare yourself to anyone. You should strive to be like Jesus. He made it possible. That's why he came to the cross. I'll be really honest. I think I wouldn't die for anyone except family and close friends, maybe. Some of you, sorry. And the Bible gives you a verse as well. He says someone wouldn't die for someone else, and you'll probably jump in front of a bullet for a friend. And then I think about that verse, and I think that's really true, Paul, because that's just me. I'm thinking about myself. And if you ever jump in front of a bullet for someone else, you're extremely fast. Because just think about the maths. But nice trying. You always get these people that protect the presidents of America, and they jump in front of a bullet. Okay, no one's faster than a bullet, but okay. But that's their job. If it wasn't their job, would they jump in front of someone else to save their lives? I can truly say I wouldn't. It's just not me. But then we have this one guy, Jesus. He made no mistake ever. He never sinned. He never lost his marbles. he was good all around. And the Bible says he came in the form of man. He became flesh, like us. Flesh, like us. Like us. That's the comparison part. Like us. So that we could have life and life in abundance. Now, if we are not feeling joy, then we're not having abundance. Then it should be something we are looking at.